When trust breaks in a relationship, most people instantly make the exact same mistake. They panic. They feel an overwhelming urge to explain themselves, to apologize 50 times in a single day, or to ask for another chance over and over until the other person feels completely smothered. It comes from a natural human impulse to fix the pain immediately, but in practice, it almost always causes the opposite effect. When you plead for forgiveness or try to rush someone into trusting you again, you are actually asking them to carry your anxiety on top of their own hurt. When someone's trust in you is damaged, what they need is not a convincing speech. They need space to observe your actions without feeling pressured to react. Every time you beg, ask, "Are we okay?" or demand to know where you stand, you are placing the focus back on your own comfort rather than their emotional safety. You are asking them to reassure you, even though you were the one who broke the agreement or caused the pain. Real reconstruction of trust never begins with persuasion. It begins with self-control. Centuries ago, long before modern behavioral science mapped out how people respond to hurt, the Stoic philosopher Epictetus observed a basic reality of human nature. He noted that people are disturbed not by things that happen, but by the principles and notions which they form concerning those things. When trust is broken in a relationship, the main issue is rarely just the single event itself. The deeper issue is the new rule the other person creates in their mind about who you are. They begin to ask themselves if you are reliable, if you are safe, and whether your future words will hold any value. A passionate speech does not change that mental rule. Only consistent, predictable outcomes over time can dismantle it. Think about how this plays out in an ordinary home. Imagine a situation where one partner promises to handle an important shared responsibility, perhaps managing a key financial detail, keeping a crucial promise to the family, or simply being honest about where they were spending their time. Instead, they hide the truth or drop the ball, and the mistake comes to light during a weekend conversation. The immediate reaction from the person who made the mistake is often to offer a dozen excuses, list every reason why life has been stressful, and promise it will never happen again. But to the partner listening, those promises sound identical to the ones made before the mistake happened. The words themselves have lost their value. Asking the other person to just trust me in that moment is asking them to ignore their own rational self-defense mechanisms. To repair trust without losing your self-respect, you have to understand the basic mechanics of how human beings evaluate risk. When someone trusts you, they are making a quiet decision to lower their guard. They are assuming that you will not use their vulnerability against them or catch them off guard with hidden surprises. The moment that expectation is broken, their mind automatically shifts into a defensive posture. They raise an emotional shield. This shield is not created to punish you, even if it feels that way from the outside. It is created to protect them from feeling fooled a second time. When you attempt to tear down that shield through constant emotional appeals, the other person feels unsafe. They sense that you care more about getting back to normal than you do about the damage that was done. The faster you try to force things back to the way they were, the longer their shield will remain up. Instead of trying to talk your way out of the distance, you must change your daily focus. You have to stop treating trust as something you demand or request and start treating it as an environment you slowly build through quiet consistency. That process requires a mindset shift from defense to accountability. Accountability does not mean putting yourself on trial every day or accepting endless verbal punishment. It simply means taking complete ownership of your actions without offering excuses, shifting blame, or minimizing what happened. When you acknowledge a mistake directly, without adding a "but" at the end of your sentence, you send a powerful signal. You show that you are mature enough to face reality without hiding behind defensive tactics. Consider how different it sounds when someone says, "I am sorry I forgot, but I had an overwhelming week at work," compared to, "I forgot, and I understand why that disappointed you." The first sentence tries to negotiate the damage. The second sentence proves that you understand the impact of your actions. When a person sees that you truly understand the consequences of what you did, they no longer feel the need to keep explaining their pain to you. They can finally stop fighting to be heard, which is always the first real step toward emotional repair. From this point forward, your primary job is not to convince the other person that you have changed. Your job is to make your behavior so steady, clear, and predictable that they can draw that conclusion entirely on their own. Once you stop making defensive speeches and accept full accountability, the dynamic between you and the other person shifts completely. You move out of a cycle of constant friction and into a space of quiet observation. But this is where many people run into a second, subtler trap. They expect their partner's guards to drop instantly the moment they apologize correctly. When the other person remains distant, hesitant, or quiet, panic sets back in. The natural temptation is to return to old patterns, demanding progress updates on the relationship, asking if things are getting better, or seeking reassurance that the mistake has been forgotten. This is why predictability is the single most critical factor in rebuilding broken trust. When you break a promise or act dishonesty, you introduce unpredictability into the other person's life. They can no longer forecast how you will react, what you will do when you are stressed, or whether your word carries weight. To restore their sense of safety, you must eliminate unpredictability from your everyday routine. During the Renaissance, Niccolò Machiavelli made a keen observation about human nature that explains why people respond so strongly to sudden shifts in behavior. He noted that men are so simple-minded and so dominated by their present needs that he who deceives will always find someone who will allow himself to be deceived. Yet those who want to maintain lasting influence must rely on steadiness rather than sudden displays of virtue. When you try to suddenly become the perfect partner overnight, offering overwhelming gifts or unnatural displays of affection, the other person's intuition sounds an alarm. They recognize the shift as a temporary performance meant to buy back favor, rather than a permanent evolution in character. Consider a simple, everyday example in a home environment. Imagine a relationship where one partner has repeatedly failed to be transparent about financial spending or personal time. In a misguided attempt to fix things, they start overcompensating, texting updates every 10 minutes, buying unprompted gifts, and agreeing with every single opinion their partner expresses. To the person who was hurt, this dramatic shift does not feel comforting. It feels manipulative. It feels like an act designed to bring a fast resolution rather than true understanding. A far more effective approach is quiet, unshakable consistency in the small details of life. If you say you will be home at 6 o'clock, arrive at 6 o'clock. If you agree to take care of a specific chore, complete it without needing to be reminded or praised for doing it. If you mention you will handle a detail for the family, manage it fully. These actions may seem ordinary, even mundane, but they are the literal brick and mortar of emotional safety. Trust is rarely restored through grand, dramatic gestures. It is rebuilt in the small, unglamorous moments where your words match your actions without any audience watching. Another vital element in this phase is learning how to hold your own space without becoming cold or distant. Rebuilding trust without begging requires a rare balance of accessibility and self-respect. You must remain open, warm, and receptive to the other person's feelings without abandoning your own dignity. When someone is hurt, they may occasionally express anger, sadness, or frustration. They might bring up the mistake when you least expect it. In those moments, your reaction will tell them everything they need to know about whether you have truly grown. If you react with defensiveness, frustration, or statements like, "Are you ever going to let this go?" you prove that your initial accountability was just a strategy to make your own life easier. You are telling them that your comfort matters more than their healing process. Instead, when the topic resurfaces, listen calmly. You do not need to repeat 100 apologies or lower yourself into self-loathing. You simply need to acknowledge their feeling with steady composure. A simple, grounded response like, "I know that what happened hurt you, and I understand why it still comes up. I'm here, and I'm listening," establishes emotional maturity. It shows that you are strong enough to carry the weight of the discomfort you created without breaking down or lashing out. By standing firm in your own integrity while giving them the space to process their emotions, you show that you are no longer operating out of fear or desperation. You are operating out of character. You are giving them a stable foundation to lean on whenever they are ready to put their guard down. As days turn into weeks, this steady pattern begins to rewrite the mental rule they created about you. They stop waiting for the other shoe to drop. They notice that you no longer try to force conversations about where the relationship is going, nor do you react with passive-aggressive silence when they need space. They see a person who is centered, reliable, and completely accountable for their life. That transformation changes the fundamental power dynamic in the room. You are no longer standing in the position of a beggar pleading for mercy. You are standing as a reliable partner offering a safe, stable, and valuable relationship. And that distinction is what turns temporary tolerance into genuine, long-term respect. When consistency becomes your baseline, a quiet shift begins to occur in the dynamic. The acute pain of the initial conflict starts to settle, replacing volatile emotion with a period of careful observation. This third phase is often where people make their final, critical misstep. Because the immediate tension has lifted, they assume the work is finished and attempt to skip straight back into complete intimacy. But recovering trust requires going through a natural cooling period where the other person shifts from self-defense to testing whether your new pattern is permanent. During this stage, the person who was hurt will consciously or unconsciously look for boundaries. They want to see what happens when stress returns, when plans change unexpectedly, or when a minor disagreement arises. They're quietly asking a core psychological question. Is this calm posture real, or will the old behavior return the moment things get difficult again? In the early 20th century, psychologist Carl Jung observed that the human mind naturally relies on patterns to navigate uncertainty, quickly reverting to old habits when under pressure, unless a fundamental change in character has occurred. When you face a high-stress moment without resorting to secrecy, defensiveness, or emotional pressure, you provide the final piece of evidence the other person needs. You prove that your self-mastery is not a temporary tactic designed to gain approval, but an authentic shift in how you operate. Consider how this scenario unfolds in everyday life. Imagine two people navigating a home project or managing a busy schedule together weeks after a major breach of trust. An unexpected problem occurs. A deadline is missed, a commitment falls through, or an external frustration disrupts the day. In the past, the mistake might have been met with excuses, hidden details, or an explosive attempt to redirect blame. This time, however, the approach is entirely different. You step forward, state the issue clearly without drama, explain the immediate steps being taken to correct it, and follow through completely. You do not panic, nor do you demand reassurance or ask if the other person is angry with you. You simply handle the reality of the situation with clear, quiet competence. When the other person observes this level of maturity during a stressful moment, their internal guard finally begins to lower naturally. They realize that they no longer need to monitor your actions or stay on high alert because you have demonstrated the capacity to monitor and hold yourself accountable. Rebuilding trust without begging ultimately transforms the nature of the connection itself. Pleading for forgiveness places all the power in the other person's hands while burdening them with the responsibility of your emotional validation. It turns the relationship into a dynamic between a seeker and a judge. Stepping back, taking complete ownership, and building unshakable consistency restores balance. It allows both individuals to meet as self-respecting adults who choose to build a secure foundation together. True trust cannot be manufactured through persuasive words or forced timelines. It is built quietly, day by day, through small actions that align with complete honesty. By committing to absolute transparency, remaining steady under pressure, and respecting the other person's need for time, you do more than repair a damaged bond. You construct a stronger, more resilient foundation for the future.